titled Increase Conversion, Shows, and Sales from Your Existing Website Traffic, and will be presented by Tim James. Tim is a dynamic leader and sales strategist with more than 20 years of achievement and demonstrated success in driving multi-million-dollar revenue growth while providing visionary leadership in highly competitive markets. Besides being one of the automotive industry's leading experts in online marketing best practices, Tim has published many best practice articles, participated in many online educational seminars, and is a regular speaker at many of the automotive industry's top e-commerce and online marketing seminars. Please welcome Tim James.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. If you're like most of the other dealerships that I talk to out there on a regular basis, you spend a lot of time and a lot of money with website provider A, website provider B, website provider C, and on various SEM and PPC campaigns these days and such to generate a lot of traffic to your website and get you a lot of leads. Then you have to work real hard to get those leads to show up at your store. A lot of phone calls, a lot of email, a lot of follow-up, and at the end of the day, only a pretty small percentage of the leads actually ever show up. So meanwhile, because most of the website providers out there use some kind of a template-based system, your hands are pretty tied with a lot of the functionality of your website. There's only, you can change certain things content-wise here and there, but in terms of really changing the functionality, there's not a lot you can do, and especially if you're using your manufacturer's required websites. Most of the website providers want you to use this particular vendor or that particular vendor, and even though you may not feel that vendor's the right fit for you and there's a better option out there, they don't always work well or play well with each other, and you don't always get to use the tools or do things that you think are best for your business. And then since everyone else in your market, your competitors are using those same providers with the same tools, you really lose a lot of your ability to stand out and to be unique, to really have a competitive advantage on your website versus your competition. So today we're going to talk about helping you regain your competitive advantage and get more leads, more shows, and more sales from the tools you got to work with. So let's jump right on in. Most of you will probably agree with me that the ultimate goal of all of your online marketing is to try to get the shopper off of the internet and into your store as quickly as you can possibly do it. You want the shopper in your store test driving a car, because we all know that until that happens, the likelihood that we're going to be able to sell them that vehicle is pretty slim. Next week, I believe at this same bat time on this same bat channel, I'll be hosting a seminar about 4 appointments that you can set to help with this process. But today we're going to keep it at a little higher level and talk about some things you can do just based off your website to increase conversion shows, and ultimately they will impact the closing rate. So one thing we know, this number is pretty consistent industry-wide, manufacturer-wide, market-wide. 70 to 75% of your dealership's traffic is driven by some form of your name. The shopper types in your URL directly and comes to your website. They enter your URL or a version of your URL into Google, a version of your dealership's name into Google, and ultimately end up at your website. That means they know who you are. That is driven by your traditional media. That's driven by your social media. It's driven by your community involvement, drive-by traffic. All the things that have driven traffic to your store in the past still drive traffic, Primarily, though, it drives the traffic to your website now versus that traffic going directly to your store. So if that's the case, the shopper's seeing an ad about this, they're hearing a commercial about that, and that interests them, and that's what drives them to your site. So they're on your site for a reason. It's not just randomly, hey, I want to look for a car. I want to look for a car, but that's in their mind. They're in the buying cycle, but something about one of your ads, something that you've done, then prompted them to take an action, and that action is coming to your website. So they're basically yours to lose at that point. And that's what most shoppers higher in the funnel especially are trying to determine. They're not just looking at what vehicle they want to buy. They're not there yet. They're looking at who do I want to do business with, and it's really a process of elimination. Are they going to eliminate you from their future searches? So we got to make certain that on that visit, that initial visit, that second visit, that third visit to your website, that they value their experience with you, and you have that competitive edge that will keep them coming back, particularly as they get lower in the buying cycle. So if 70 to 75% of your traffic is on your site looking for you, where are they at? How come it's not easy to get 70% of the people that are on your website every month down to your store? And there's a very simple answer for that, and it's some basic fundamental rules of marketing. We know that only 2 to 3% of the population is a now buyer for any given product at any given time. The other 97, 98% are divided into two categories: future potential and potential prospect. Where someone is at in that in those categories depends on the buying cycle of the product. And what we do is we spend money, we market, we advertise to try to reach up into that funnel and turn potential prospects into now buyers. Generally, an advertisement rule of thumb is going to reach up another 2 to 3% and grab some of those potential prospects, create urgency, get them to the store now, and give us the opportunity to turn them into now buyers in the short term. But we're still only talking, now roughly 95%. If you're getting around a 5% conversion rate on your website right now, it's primarily doing its job for the lower funnel shoppers. The question is, how do we reach up higher and using the tools we got? So one thing that we first have to consider, I know a lot of you out there are only using your manufacturer website, and a lot of you out there are have your manufacturer website, but then you've gotten a second site so that you have a little more control over the things you can do. So one of the things for those of you that are still using just your manufacturer site, I will encourage you to talk with your peers that are using two separate sites and ask them the impact that it has on their business, because I'll tell you straight up, every dealership that I talk to who has added a second site that they have at least a little more control over, 100% have told me that yes, without question, it has an impact on their sales. Their sales go up. And for the cost, yes, you may have to spend another $700, $800, $1,000, $1,500 a month. You sell 1, 2 additional cars a month, it's paying for itself, and it will have a bigger impact than that. So that's one thing for a group of you in the audience that you do need to consider. But here's the bottom line: no matter how many sites you have, you've got to control the things that you can control. Instead of worrying about all the things that we can't, let's focus on the things that we can. And here's the meat and potatoes. Again, here's what we're after. If you're using your was-is pricing, you have your current call to action and whatnot, you're going to get a lot of the now buyer traffic to begin with. But what we're really after is not just this other 78% that has a high probability, but there's a section in here of this other 30% that can be persuaded. More importantly, we have to make certain that as this group moves into this category, that we are the provider, the dealership that they have chosen to do business with. Step number 1, reduce your time to market. Now, in the old days, this was a big thing. You took 1, 4, 9 photos of a vehicle, and that happened once a week, once every 10 days, once every 14 days. So you have inventory, you have cars on your lot that are for sale that aren't on your website. But here's the thing about those cars, the ones that are on your lot that just came in that aren't on your website yet, those are the money cars. Those are the ones that were just purchased because they're supposed to be what's in demand. Well, if they're what's in demand, they're not. It's not the stale inventory that's been sitting out on your lot already for 30, 60, 90, 120 days. This is the hot stuff that we just brought in because this is what our pricing tool or our purchasing tool, whatever it is you're using these days to tell you the inventory to buy, this is what it's told you to buy, and now it's on your lot, yet it still just sits there. Your ads for your vehicles can be seen by more people in one day than all your other ads can be seen in a week. It's that important that as soon as that vehicle is ready, you have the photos taken and you get that ad created, distributed, and displayed as fast as you can. There are dealerships out there today, some of the top performing dealerships in the country update their inventory not just once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, up to 4 times a day. Their inventory is being updated. There are dealerships out there today that are taking photographs of the vehicle at auction and with some kind of a mobile device, emailing that over to their internet department to get an ad created and posted, at least with one photograph, before the car ever arrives on the lot, because it's that important to start to get the vehicle out there. The faster you can get your ad for that vehicle online, the faster your turn is going to be. And you know that may not mean a lot to a lot of us on this call, but I assure you, to your principal, how fast, to your general manager, how fast you turn that inventory is extremely important. So step number 1, you have to reduce your time to market. Now, and here's when I say ad, here's what I'm talking about. Good photographs. I think today people are doing 25, 35, 55 photos. 55 might be a little overkill, but there are articles out there. This is a whole nother session completely on how to properly merchandise the vehicle, what good photos are, and what a good vehicle description is. And in today's market, with today's expectation, you have to start incorporating live video walkarounds of your inventory. The computer-generated ones are great. They're better than nothing without question. But I ask this question at every seminar I give, and 100% of the time the answer is the same. I ask people who in the audience is using live video, and of those that raise their hand, I ask them, has it changed their life? And the answer is always yes. Once they've started using live video walkarounds, the increased conversion rate is so dramatic, they will tell you they will never go back to not using a live video walkaround. And again, there's a whole other session on the correct way to do a live video walkaround, but the bottom line is there's only one way. The closest you can get to providing that face-to-face walk around on the lot is by doing it on a live video walk around. Even if it's on an individual basis, even if it's not on your inventory but you're using it to respond to leads, that's better than nothing, and it has a dramatic impact on the response rate because it's unique and no one else is doing it right now. So here, let's talk about the second takeaway. First and foremost, reducing your time to market will absolutely have an impact on your sales. You will get more people communicating with you. Your inventory will turn faster, and you will sell more cars because the cars that are being represented are the cars that are in demand. They're the ones that the shoppers are out there looking for right now. And the second takeaway is, if you're not already incorporating live video, you need to start. Even if it's just 1 car, 2 cars, 5 cars right now, go out and start learning how to do a good live video walk around, because it will have a dramatic impact on your overall conversion. This is also another big factor here, guys. Everything that we've talked about so far in terms of merchandising your vehicle, you have to do for your new inventory also. Again, I'll ask this question at every conference I give, and at every conference the answer is 100% the same. I ask who in the audience is currently taking actual photos and using live videos of their new inventory, and of the ones who raise their hand, they will tell you 100% of the time, yes, it has had a dramatic impact on our sales. To us, we move metal. Every car starts to look the same. To the shopper, every vehicle is unique, even the new inventory. If they're looking through your new inventory and they're looking at this vehicle and that vehicle, and they're very similar, they're the same color, but one of them's priced $1,000 more than the other, you need to make certain that you tell the shopper why. Why is this one? What's the value? What is it that makes this one worth $1,000 more than the other one? And by showing the actual vehicle, it will help the consumer get emotionally attached to the vehicle. And that's really what it's all about. We've got to get the shopper emotionally attached to a vehicle on the internet. And when you're just looking at static pictures, it's not going to happen. So again, in the old days, this is really all we had to do to get a competitive advantage. Nobody took 20 pictures. Everybody was taking 4 photos, 9 photos. It would take a week to get the ads out. Nobody did anything with their new vehicle. So when the shopper came by your website, you were different. You looked like you cared more. You really looked like you wanted their business, like you were putting in an effort to get their business. So as they continued through the buying cycle, they eliminated other dealerships. Whether they came back to the web to do a search again, you were still on the list of dealerships that they came to. And ultimately, as they got lower in the buying cycle, they got emotionally attached to one of your vehicles because you had a good representation. They ended up at your store and you sold them a car. A lot of people out there are doing this, some version of this already today. It's not as easy. Everybody's doing 20, 25 pictures. Everybody's got some kind of a unique vehicle description. And you know, if you're using those automated description writers that just talk about a bunch of features, you know, intermittent window wipers and power windows, you know, that's not getting it. You need to adjust your process. But there's even some good quality automatic generators out there today. So the quality's gotten a lot better. It's not as easy to use just the merchandising aspect to get that competitive advantage today and stand out and be different. So what do? Well, first let's focus on the site itself, lowering our bounce rate. Again, 75% of the traffic came looking for you. It's because they saw some kind of an offline ad. Yet 90% of the time when I visit a dealership's website, on the first thing you see, you've got a big space, a very valuable space on your website where it should be showing and representing your current advertisements and your value propositions. Instead, you've got pictures of vehicles. You've got pictures of your makes and your models, or a picture of your dealership in that valuable spot. And that's not what got the shopper to your website. What brought them there was a promotion, was some kind of an ad. What brought them there was offline content that you have to represent online. So by having relevant content. So the shopper gets to your website. They don't see what brought them there. They might click a button here or a button there to try to see if they can find it, but then it's not there either, and they're gone. They bounce. You may never see them again. Secondly, sometimes you have just way too much going on. You got buttons for this and buttons for that, and things moving here and things moving there. All those things are distracting to the consumer. You're a consumer. You visit websites. When you go to Amazon, or when you go to this Best Buy's website, or when you go to Home Depot's website, what do you see? You don't see all that craziness and things, distracting the shopper from what it is they're there for. So we'll get into how can you make it fast and easy. And here's why it's got to be fast. Here's the reason making the shopper look around to try to find what button to click next is because of time. We're all very busy. You're very busy. When you're sitting around and you're working and you happen to have 5 minutes and you jump on the computer to look for this or look for that, what happens next? You get interrupted. You get a text message. If you're at home, the kids start screaming. You got to make dinner. Somebody's got a soccer game. You've got this going on, that going on. If your Facebook pops up, you get a message. All kinds of things that distract you, and as soon as the shopper's distracted, they may never come back. Same with at work. Co-workers, boss shouting at you, this and that going on, all the distraction, all the noise in the communication process that makes it extremely important that you have a website that's very fast and clean, very easy to use, that has the call to actions that you want the shopper to do right in front of them, so the shopper doesn't have to try to look and find where to go next. Every second that we're asking them to do that, we're risking losing the shopper. So here's a rule of thumb. For every page of your website, you should answer these 3 questions. Where am I? What can I do here? Why should I do it? Where am I? Well, most of them know where they are because, like we talked about, they entered your name, your URL to get to you. So they know they're on your website. But the site still has to be clean and easy to use, not distracting, and it has to answer these other 2 questions as quickly as possible. What can I do here? You sell cars. First and foremost, in big letters, not a tiny little drop down where it's hard to see or hard to find. In big letters, you need a button that says, click here to search our inventory. You need a big button that says, click here to schedule service. You need a big button that says, click here to buy parts. You need a big button that says, see our ads, see our special offers. You need to have content that, like we talked about before, that's relevant to your offline advertising on that page to make certain that it's there, so that you are showing the shopper, representing to the shopper why they came to see you to begin with. And finally, why should I do it? And that's your value proposition. That's what makes you different. I was talking to one website provider, and they said that their second most clicked button on their customers across the board, all of their customers, the second most clicked button was the About Us button. And that's my point. That you're making a shopper take time to click the About Us button so that they can figure out if they want to do business with you or not. They shouldn't have to click that button. Your value proposition should be right there in front of them. Here's what makes us different. Here's why you want to do business with us. Don't make the shopper try to think about it. Don't make them have to go try to look for it. We're fighting to try to gain that competitive edge, that competitive advantage. Use your website, the front page of your website, as an opportunity to put that value proposition right out in front, right in front of your shoppers. So here's an example. This is just one that I picked out. I love the keyword search too, because most shoppers, Craigslist, Google, Yahoo, no matter where it is, we're getting really trained to shop by using keywords. So they could simply enter the keywords and find what they're looking for too. But here's a good example, and that's why I picked this one. New cars, used cars, certified, service parts. Cars under 15,000, and here's our value proposition. We have a 1, 2, 3 price guarantee. This is why you want to do business with us. So it's not difficult. The site's nice and clean. It looks easy to use. It is easy to use. The shopper's going to get here. They're not going to be confused. They're not going to have to worry about where do I go next. It's going to be easy for them to dive into the website. So takeaway number 5, you do some of these simple things. Clean up your front page of your website. Put your value proposition out there. It will lower your bounce rate, and lowering your bounce rate, getting the shopper into their inventory or what it was that they were looking for, will increase your conversions. Next, let's talk about converting more. This is the million-dollar question. This is what everybody's trying to focus on. How do we get more people to engage our website once they're on it? Well, we have a goal. Everybody's goal, like we talked about before, is to get the shopper off the internet and to our store as quickly as possible. So the first thing we want them to do is come to our store. Second thing, if we don't get them to the stores, we want them to call us. So it's still a live communication. And next is chat. More and more people are chatting. More and more dealerships are getting better at chatting with the shopper. So those could be about equal now. And the last thing we want them to do is emails. But even if at a last case scenario, if all we can get them to do is to email us, we at least want them to do that, right? So this is our goal. This is what we want a shopper to do when they're on our website. Yet, if you look at your website, most of the websites that I see, this is the order in which you promote. You have all kinds of forms and all kinds of things for the shopper to fill out to email you. You've got a chat button that is on every page of the website. Follow moving around, following them everywhere they go. And then you have a phone number up at the very top in small print that's hard to find, hard to see. So even if they did want to call you, they got to try to search and find the number. And you may have a come down and schedule a test drive. But on a lot of websites, to schedule a test drive is the same button, it's the same form that's on all the other forms, all the other call to action. So most importantly, though, all of these, this is the main thing we gotta talk about, is all of these require the shopper to be willing to make a multi-thousand-dollar decision just to do one of these things. So right now, most of the websites out there are set up with one offer and one incentive. Buy my car and I'll sell it to you for this price. Buy my car, I'll discount it by this much. Buy my car, I'll give you this much on your trade. Buy my car, we have these manufacturer discounts. All of these things are price-based incentives. Buy my car, I'll do this with the price. So every one of them requires the consumer to make a $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 decision just to communicate with you. Remember, we're looking they're on your website, they typed in your name, they want to do business with you, they're looking for reasons not to. These are the people that we really want to try to focus on, that we really want to try to make certain that when it's time, as they move down the funnel, and when it becomes time for them to choose who they're going to do business with, that they choose us. They choose your store as the one. So this is who we're targeting. They're not ready to make a $35,000, $55,000 decision. So here's why. The price-based incentives, like we talked about, are only relevant to a very small percentage of the shoppers. Don't get me wrong; those higher-level people do want to test drive a car. They are interested. They would like to, especially as they're moving into the high-probability part of the funnel. Test driving a vehicle is very interesting to them. But the reason they're hesitant to do it, the reason you have to call them over and over and over and over as they're moving down and through the cycle, is to try to get to set up the appointment, try to get them to come in and take a test drive, is because it's still based on a $25,000, $35,000, $55,000 decision that they're not ready to make. So here's how we fix it. We change the offer and we change the incentive. Change the offer to take a no obligation test drive. It's not a $25,000, $35,000, $55,000 decision. Change the offer to come in and let us appraise your vehicle. It's not a $25,000, $55,000 decision. And change to the incentive to we'll incentivize you to do it based off of the decision, not based off of the test drive or the appraisal, not off of you have to buy my car. So there's a lot of things you can do, you can use for incentives. I remember 10 years ago, it may be 15 years ago, a dealership I was working with in St. Louis, who I told them, listen, go down and buy a bunch of, you couldn't just get online and do all this stuff back then. You had to physically go down to the stadium and buy some tickets. So run down to the stadium, buy some baseball tickets, put something on your website to get people to come in and take a test drive, and you'll give them baseball tickets. So they ran down to the stadium, they bought some tickets, put it on a website. Sure enough, I called them a week later. Man, it was awesome. We gave away 40 pairs of tickets and sold 30 cars. It was amazing. I'm like, great. But I didn't see that coupon. I didn't see it on your website today before I came down here. Now I haven't had time to go down and get more tickets yet. So I'm baffled. You just did a promotion and you sold 30 cars based off of it, but you don't have time to run down and buy some more tickets. And that gets back to the time factor, man. We're all busy. And this was, like I said, 10, 15 years ago. We were still busy. There's a lot of things you can do. Baseball tickets, movie tickets, hats, T-shirts, you name it. But there's some things that you have to keep in mind. It has to be done correctly. All right, so take home number 6. Incentivizing your shopper will increase your conversions, but you have to do it correctly. There's some major things don't do if you want it to have the biggest impact. So here are the must-haves. First and foremost, it must be a no obligation incentive. You're not required to buy. Drill that in the shopper's head. You don't have to purchase a vehicle to receive this. All you have to do is come down here and let us appraise your vehicle. All you have to do is come down here and take a test drive. The incentives have to be whatever you're offering to them, you have to give to them while they're there. You can't be the thanks for coming down, you take the test drive, and now we're going to put it in the mail. And there's a big reason for that we're going to get into here in a minute that will actually have a negative impact on the sales process and really almost do away with all of the positive things that you've built by getting them down there. Borrow the credibility of the vendor. This is big because you got to understand, whether we like it or not, shoppers don't trust us. They think every dealership is out there to try to rip them off. So if you're borrowing the credibility of your vendor, then the chances that first and foremost, the chances that they're a now buyer for the vendor goes up between them being a now buyer for a vehicle and a now buyer for this, that, the other. But it also adds to the credibility of the offer. And another huge aspect, you have to be able to geo-target. Just because somebody is on your website, they may not be in your backyard. You have a cross-sales report that you look at. You know where you lose business from, you know where you gain business from, and you know that size of that of your reach is getting larger and larger and larger every day. We also know, though, as if a higher shopper person is on our website, it takes more time. It's more of a hassle for them to drive all the way down to your store and pass 1, 2, 3, 5 other stores just to get there. So if we want to make certain that we're bringing in the shoppers from further away, we have to increase our incentive to them. So use geo-targeting technology. Again, you also use name brands versus local brands. There's a reason for that. If you're using a local brand, you know, there's a local restaurant or something that's right here next to you, that may be nice for the people in your backyard. That's a nice incentive. But for somebody 100 miles away, well, that restaurant's not over there. And the fact that it's not in their backyard, it makes it a big issue. They're not a now buyer for that. By using name brands, the chances that the shopper is going to be a now buyer for that brand is pretty important. So use referring URLs and keyword submissions and things of that nature. Use technology to help make whatever the ad that you're showing, whatever offer you're showing to the shopper, that makes it relevant to their visit. The more relevant to the visit you can make it for them, the better experience it's going to be for the shopper. The better experience for the shopper, the more likely it is they're going to engage the ad. The more likely it is they engage the ad, the more likely it is they're going to come down to your store and accept the offer. You also want to make certain that you're in that relevance, that you're duplicating your traditional media, your offline messages. This is an example of a dealership that was doing the command. All of their marketing market-wide was about their command performance event. You came to their website, you saw a big banner on the front page of their website that represented their command performance event. You saw banners throughout their website that talked about their command performance event. You had all vertical banners, horizontal banners, all kinds of things all around the website that duplicated the offline message that they were sending on the TV ads and in their email campaigns or their direct mail campaigns and in the newspaper and so on and so on. And again, one of the most important things is the instant delivery, making certain that you provide whatever you've promised when the shopper shows up at the store. When the shopper shows up, there is a trust barrier. We know that like we talked about before, that shoppers don't trust us. We know that every shopper that shows up at the store wants to take a test drive. We know that one of the biggest things we struggle with is getting the shopper to take a test drive. Why is that? Well, if the shopper's there on your lot and they want to take a test drive, why does your sales team have struggled with getting everybody that shows up on the lot to take a test drive? And the answer is very simple. It's because they don't trust you. The salesperson's the bad guy. You're going to try to talk me into doing something that I don't want to do. Every question you ask me is a loaded question in my mind. Every question you ask me, you're only asking because you want me to buy a car. You want me to make a decision that I'm not ready to make yet. And so it's a negative relationship. There's a big trust barrier there. But when that shopper shows up and you can immediately, they're there to take a test drive and get the incentive that you're offering them, and you immediately give them that incentive, now you're the good guy. Now they trust you. Now they know that they are indeed going to get their incentive. They don't even know for sure when they show up if they're even going to get their incentive. And that's why when you tell them, if you tell them, well, yeah, thank you for the test drive, and the incentive's in the mail, they don't know if they're really going to get it or not. Did you just trick me? Am I really going to get it? Here I came down here, and that trust barrier goes right back up. Now it has a negative impact on the sales process. By reversing that, delivering the incentive right away, you build that trust barrier, you become the good guy, you're doing something for them, and by having that positive relationship, you dramatically increase the likelihood that that shopper is going to do business with you. Even if it's not right then, they like you. The experience is an experience that they didn't get anywhere else, and if it is a be back, they will be back. They are going to buy from you. So this again just reiterates the things that we just talked about. and it does have a huge impact on the sale. So getting close to wrapping it up, here's how it all works together. This kind of shows you how everything we just talked about all kind of works together to ultimately deliver a much higher conversion rate for your website, a significantly higher show rate for the leads, the people that do communicate with you and engage you, and most importantly, has a positive impact on the sale. You have relevant content on your website. They see your value proposition as soon as they land. So more consumers get into your inventory search and into your display pages. Higher funnel shoppers immediately see the incentive to test drive. Now here's what happens. If they engage you and they engage that incentive to test drive, they haven't picked out a car. They're looking at you as a dealership, not the exact vehicle they want to buy. But all of a sudden now, in order to get their incentive to test drive, they have to drive a car. So they go back to your inventory and they start looking at your inventory with purpose. They're not just browsing it to see what you got. They're looking for the car they're going to test drive. The emotional attachment begins. Most importantly, all of your cars are there. The cars that are in demand are there. You have good emotional content, a good description, a good live walk-around video. So the likelihood that engagement, that emotional attachment occurs is significantly highlighted. So the shopper gets emotionally attached to not just a car, but their car, the car they're going to test drive. They print out the little form and they show up at your the electronic brochure, and they show up at your store not certain what to expect. There's a big trust barrier there. The salesperson comes up and validates the car, becomes the good guy. The trust barrier comes down. The salesperson now engages the shopper in the exact same conversation they would have had with them before, but because the trust barrier is down, they get honest, real answers. It's a real conversation. You can help use that information to build on that relationship. The shopper test drives their car. They have a great experience overall, and they buy the car. And like we said before, because of the experience, even if they don't buy right then, which, believe it or not, following this process, the dealerships that I've talked to that are following this process, an average of 70% of the shoppers that show up and follow this process, an average of 70% of those shoppers purchase the vehicle on the initial visit. For the ones that don't, a very high percentage of them will come back and will purchase within a short period of time. So, wrapping it up, some things to remember. Again, the largest majority of the shoppers on your website are still trying to decide, who do I want to do business with? They haven't picked out a car. They didn't type in a car to get to your website. They typed in your name. It was driven by your offline marketing. Changing any of these aspects will have a small impact on your business. It will have a impact. There's no one thing. You can't just change one of these and expect that all of a sudden you're going to go from a 5% conversion to a 25% conversion. Not one of these things is not going to have that big of an impact. But if you can focus on change 2 of them, change 3 of them, change 4 of them, change 5 of the things we talked about, add 6 of the things we talked about, you can expect a significant increase overall in your conversion rate. That all works together. All your online marketing, your offline marketing, there isn't one thing that got the shopper to your store. It's a combination of all the things. And all of those things have the end goal of getting the shopper off the internet and into your store as soon as possible. If you are going to communicate with the higher funnel shoppers, you cannot communicate. They are not interested in a decision to purchase. They are not interested in a price-based incentive. Your efforts to try to communicate them with a price-based incentive are not going to work. You have to change your offer. You have to change the incentive to get those higher funnel shoppers to engage you, to pick you as this, particularly as they move lower in the funnel, to choose you as one of the websites at a minimum you're one of them they're going to come back to as they move down the funnel. If they don't see similar offers, then they're going to ultimately choose you, and they're going to be in your store. And this is unfortunately because of the limitations that most of us are faced with our websites and the things we can do with our websites. The things that we just talked about are some of the only things we can do to regain a competitive advantage and get those shoppers to engage us. Once they've engaged you, there are other things you can do, and again, like I said, next week we'll talk about some of those. There's some other things you can do that will also hopefully help increase the number that have engaged you that show up. But you got to start by getting the shopper to engage you. So that is the session. I see that we have some questions that have already come in. So here's one question. We have a ClickMotive website. Who can offer the online pop-ups for my site that can be geo-targeted? There, one thing I really don't want to do is promote any. I don't want to promote a website company over a different website company. I don't want to promote a CRM over a different CRM. I don't want to promote an incentive company over an incentive company. There are a couple of different incentive companies out there. There are some significant differences between some of those incentive companies, and you need to, when trying to choose which one to work with, again, you want to make sure that you go back to the must-haves that we talked about, and that whoever you choose has the must-haves, because if they don't have the must-haves, you will end up hurting your business as much as you're going to help it. Any additional questions? And this slide will be available if you want to have the slide, so you can have these must-haves in your hands. Or you're welcome to contact me directly, Lonnie, and I would be glad to have that conversation one-on-one with you. But I don't want to do it with everybody on the call. No other questions? Well, that's awesome. It looks, I've been watching the audience count. It looks like pretty much everybody stayed with us the entire presentation, so I really appreciate that, everybody. Thank you very much. And again, my PowerPoint is available to you if you'd like to receive it. You can contact me directly here. Whoops. Contact me directly, and I'd be happy to send it to you. I believe the presentation itself, the video of the presentation, will be available through the Digital Leader website also.
Thank you very much, Timmy. We appreciate your time, and again, thank you.
You bet. Thank you all.